guys, this is Moshe, guys and gals. This is Moshe coming to you from Israel, the Galilee, on the 25th of August. It's a Friday. It's 9:03 in the morning. And what's our weather doing? Let's check. Waiting for it to refresh if it's going to. There it goes. Let it finish. There it goes. 81 degrees now. High of about 93, 94. Low of 77. Our humidity is 69% now. Yikes. For whatever it's worth, they're predicting by Monday we may start having temperatures of 90, but nah, doesn't look encouraging. No, it's going to be more of the same. Usually, sometime in September, we get a click down where you get away from the air conditioning and things like that. I said usually. This is different. And what we established the other day was that heat is tied into the birth pangs, as is fire. I'll probably review that today, but there's a lot of fires in the world, you know. Okay, so before I do the Bible work on the next temple, I want to go through some of the war drums that are going on. Where does the war drums come from? I got it from the old Tarzan movies with like Lex Barker and Johnny Weissmuller, where he was running around with a chimpanzee called Cheetah, and he had his wife, what was her name, Jane, and they had a child, they called them Boy. That was really creative. And they lived in a tree house in the jungle. Put my anti-glare glasses, well, they're just sunglasses. It stops the glare. I got two screens going at me, you know. And, you know, they'd be in the jungle, and Tarzan would kill crocodiles and giant pythons and lions and tigers and cheetahs and jackals and, you know, I don't know, everything, right? And he was able to call the animals to come help him. He'd go, oh, you know, and all the animals would come help him. So the first question is, why do all the animals come to help him when he calls, yet he can't communicate with the tigers, lions, and crocodiles attacking him? Big question, right? Okay. And then what does Jane and Tarzan do when they get older and he's not able to go jump around swinging on the vines and climbing up into tree houses? What do they go into, an old age home in the jungle with the monkeys taking care of them as nurses? I mean, what happens, you know? So Jane puts her trust on man. Tarzan puts his trust on himself. And Boy trusts them. And where does that get him? Well, anyway, that's another story. You can't rely on man. You got to rely on God. So, anyway, where does that take us? So, Tarzan would be around there, and the tribes would be ready to attack some evil people from Europe, or, you know, white people. The natives were predominantly, I think, all black. Tarzan wasn't. And they would send smoke signals, I think, but they would beat drums to signal the other tribes that they were going to go to war against each other, or typically against the white people coming there to capture animals and take Jane back to civilization and things like that. So, the war drums is a sign that war is coming. Okay. So, let me stop real quick before I get discombobulated and do our praise, okay? Because this is a Bible-believing site. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 Jehovah. There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, and I have prayer requests that I forgot the other day, and I apologize. I'm going to do them right now. This first one, the person gave me 4 initials. Okay, so it's for JLJJ. Juliet Lima Juliet Juliet. Juliet Lima Juliet Juliet JLJJ. Healing for a knee injury and good overall health. For JLJJ, healing for a knee injury and good overall health. Next one is for MP, Mike Papa. MP, Mike Papa, MP, healing. The next one is for CK, Charlie Kilo, CK, Charlie Kilo, healing for a tooth problem and foot pain. CK, Charlie Kilo, healing for foot problem and for a tooth problem and foot pain. Sorry, sometimes, I'm preparing for this in the morning for a few hours, and I get, the Lord guides me and leads me and tells me what I should be covering today. So I do what he says. So sometimes I have all this stuff in my head and I sit down and I forget to do the prayers. But I'm going to try more diligently to not forget. Okay? All right. So we had a really, really, really big event. I covered this on Telegram. I did a almost 20-minute audio file on it. And I want to explain this to you. BRICS, which is this organization, BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. 5 members that originally were in BRICS. Now, they're trying to do away with the American currency. And they were looking at 40, 50 people joining BRICS. I don't know how many were seriously trying to join BRICS. Is one thing to express an interest, another thing to join. But they had their meeting, their August meeting, and they brought in 6 members. And this is big. As far as big goes, 10 being the biggest, this is an 8.5 or a 9. It's huge. I mean, to get bigger than this with America, I think you'd have to attack Pearl Harbor again. Okay, the ones that joined are as follows: Saudi Arabia, Iran, Egypt, UAE, Egypt, I said Egypt twice, sorry, Brazil, Argentina, and Ethiopia. One more time. Saudi Arabia, Iran, Egypt, UAE, Brazil, Argentina, and Ethiopia are now in BRICS. Okay? They're in. Now, BRICS was talking, probably what amounts to talking trash, about having a gold-backed trading currency. Now, I, on a number of occasions, commented that I don't see this realistically working out. BRICS has a bank. They've had it for many years. Their bank has a branch in Beijing and another one in Moscow. So the gold-backed currency would mean you have to back, it's a trading currency, not the money people have in their wallet or their purse and they go to the store and buy, a shirt with it or something like that, or groceries. Okay, this is just for trading within BRICS. Putin said he was going to set up a electronic payment system with the BRICS members like SWIFT, and the people would have to back the amount of currency they have, this trading currency, with gold. So if they wanted to trade with, let's say $10 billion, which isn't much, of this new gold-backed trading currency, they'd have to back it with gold. Now, how do they do that? Are you going to listen to little countries like Sri Lanka and, other countries that are, not very well-established countries, and they say, well, we got, $10 billion of gold, and we're going to pledge this to back $10 billion of BRICS currency, so you can, we'll give you a statement pledging it, and, they're going to retain it in the Sri Lanka vaults or something, right? Well, I don't think BRICS is stupid enough to go for that, because how do they know they really have the gold? Well, let's say they do an audit. Okay, now they put the gold in an area, in a vault, and this has got a sign on it, BRICS gold, do not touch. Be, funny, I think, Okay. So, they do the audit, and then these people could sell the gold the next day. Dictators run away with gold, it's pretty common, right? So they would probably want the country to transfer this gold to the brick bank vaults, be they in Beijing or Moscow. Well, Beijing and Moscow are on the verge of a big world war. So are these countries really going to do that? I don't think so. And then how would they get it back? Call Putin up on the phone and say, I want my gold. Call China up on the phone, I want my gold. Oh, there's a little difficulty. We can't do it right now. It has to be approved by our Congress. They meet in 6 months. And, you're not going to get your gold back. So I don't hear much more about the gold-backed trading currency. I don't think they can make it work. The other thing is this. Let's just pick a round number. Gold's $1,900 an ounce. So even if they put the gold in the vault, right? Then the United States and NATO and other countries could plummet the price of gold down. They could manipulate the market with their unlimited fiat money and drive the price of gold down to $1,400 or $1,200. Now the people got less trading currency, so if they want to continue their trades, they got to bring more gold in. So they said, we're going to do it not by the dollar value, but by ounces of gold. Well, that's absurd. How are you going to do that? You have to give it a value because you're issuing a currency, right? Okay. There used to be a company called eGold. They might still be around. They were around for years, and they were an excellent company. You had to go to what was called an eGold merchant and send money to this eGold merchant. And then the eGold merchant would credit to your eGold account. So you could open up an account with nothing in it. Credit to your eGold account so many ounces of gold based on the value of gold on the day you purchased it from them. Now, you used to be able to use eGold on eBay. You used to be able to search eBay and it would pop up which auctions or items for sale are based on, you can pay for with eGold. Those are the old days, Even up until maybe 2005 or so, 4, it was going on. It started in the 90s, late 90s. And eGold had the gold pledged in some trust account in different places, Switzerland and a couple other places. I can't remember all of them. And they told you if you wanted to redeem your gold, you could do so. They would send the gold to you. And they would, because they were getting hit with fraud, I think, they were sending the gold by armored car. The armored car would come only to your business, not your house. And I think maybe you were able to get it in your house or something. But anyway, and it was a $500 minimum fee for the armored car. So few people ever redeemed for gold, as far as I know. But the way they worked it is you were credited in your account by so many ounces of gold, fractional ounces and so forth. So if you wanted to buy something, say on eBay for $93, you would punch into eGold, I want to pay this guy $93 worth of gold. eBay would then calculate your gold according to the spot price at that minute and tell you how many ounces or fractional ounces of gold you needed to transfer. Then you transferred that amount to the person on eBay and you paid for the auction. Got it? So the price of goods would vary every day because gold would fluctuate. But back then gold was in the 200s, maybe it hit 300, So it wasn't anything like it was today. So the variance wasn't that huge, They didn't require any identity. All you needed was an email address and you created a password. And you usually created a pretty impossible password to crack. Back then, if you went 13 places, you had 13 characters in your password, and you used capital letters and things like question marks and dashes and things like that, and numbers, you were pretty good shape because they couldn't crack these passwords easily back then because the speed of the computers was minimalistic. And they had a lot of, the United States was cracking down on encryption software and stuff like that. And they used to have encryption programs you could use that at the time were unbreakable. But usually you would go out about 18 or 20 characters like this, using punctuation marks, numbers, capital letters, and regular letters, and it made it immensely. Once you went from just lowercase and you added uppercase, you doubled the complexity, and then when you added numbers, it went up even more, and then when you added punctuation, it made it even more. And it might have taken you a month or two, if ever, to crack it. And you couldn't just be pounding eGold with random passwords at the rate of 1 every 1 or 2 seconds. They wouldn't let you do that. You put in maybe 3 or 5 or whatever it was bad passwords, and they locked the account, and they would send you emails and different things. So then they had to break your email and all this stuff. So back then there was secure email services that used encryption. A lot of things were going on. The government shut him down. It was a guy that was a medical doctor that started it. They didn't really shut him down altogether. They almost shut it down. It was being used for criminal activities because it was so good. You had to, if you wanted to pay somebody, you had to buy the e-gold, or you had to sell something and get paid in e-gold. So you could anonymously get on proxy servers and open up a e-gold account, and then people would pay you with their e-gold. And then the trick is, what do you do with it now? Well, there were companies that let you transfer e-gold to a Visa debit card and get money out of ATM machines, make purchases, on the Visa. And it was pretty hard for the government to get after it. So anyway, this taught me a lot, of the complexity of what Russia and China were trying to do with the BRICS gold-backed currency. It's near impossible. Unless the countries say, okay, we want to put our money in your vault in gold. And even if they do that, which they won't, you think India is going to go give China, $100 billion worth of gold, or Russia would, or give it to Russia? Are you kidding me? Modi would do that? Who's going to do that? UAE, Saudi Arabia, they're never going to get their money back. It's a one-way street. So they modified their approach to it, and now they have agreed to accept purchases of goods from the other BRICS members using their own currency. So they would use the India rupee, the Russian ruble, the Chinese yuan, and the South Africa rand, and so forth, to pay each other, right? And that's what they began doing. Okay, all this is well and good, and there's 11 members of BRICS, but this is what you don't know. 80% of the oil being traded, being produced, the 80% of the oil supply of the world is now in the hands of BRICS. Okay, Iran has a lot of oil. Saudi Arabia is numero uno, I think. UAE is up there. Russia's up there. Now, Brazil, I think, has some oil, but they're not a major player. Egypt also, but they're not a major player. And I don't know much about Ethiopia and Argentina with oil. And these countries also have natural gas. And now they're trading 80% of the world's supply of oil in non-US dollars. Okay? That is no small matter to the United States. The United States has been described rather accurately as a sleeping lion. The Japanese used that term in the beginning of World War II or before. And there were generals and admirals in the Japanese Navy that were not big on this idea of attacking Pearl Harbor with that so-called sneak attack. Because they were saying, hey, it's a sleeping lion. You're going to prod it, it's going to wake up, and it's going to come after you. Okay? They did it anyway. And what happened? Oh, they lost. Did they get any strategic gains? I don't want to dwell on this. Yeah, it took 2 years for America to really catch up and overcome the problems in the Pacific with the Japanese Navy. And Hitler had U-boats that were giving them a lot of problems when they were transferring all kinds of supplies to England to keep them in the game, so Germany didn't conquer England. They sent convoys across the Atlantic. U-boats would try to sink them. They sent escort vessels and all this stuff. Okay, I'm not going to dwell on that. The United States has terribly dropped on people that have tried to do a gold-backed currency. The last gold-backed currency to disappear was Switzerland in the late 80s, I think 88. They got rid of it. The Swiss used to have gold-backed currency, Swiss franc, gold-back. And Libya tried to do that, and you saw what happened to Libya. Another country or two tried it, and America shut them down. Now, this is a big concerted effort of many countries that are suffering from sanctions that America's, spearheading. Most importantly, Iran, China, and Russia, and their economies are crushing. Food prices in Russia have doubled recently because the ruble dropped around half. Even with the doubling in their food prices, the food is a lot cheaper than it is in Israel. That's another subject. So, but wages are lower in Russia. So it's hurting the people. 8 or 9 years ago, in Israel, you were able to buy a week or 10 days worth of groceries. That was everything. Okay, paper towels, toilet paper, beverages, soda, stuff like that. Milk, cream for coffee, you buy coffee, meat, cereal, bread, frozen things, all of it would be about 600 shekels. Today, you're lucky if you could do it at 1,000. It's more like 1,000, 1,200 shekels. It's doubled. It's hard. I mean, it's hard here, but another conversation, not for now. The United States is now under sanctions from BRICS. That's what this is. And it's an economic warfare. You could even say it's an economic counter warfare to what America did to them with the sanctions. Trump was big on sanctions, and they work, and Biden too. It doesn't cost you trillions of dollars. You don't lose, like in a war, you lose equipment, planes, tanks, boats. You lose soldiers. You have to spend so much money on the war machine and all this stuff, right? So instead, they came up with sanctions. Now, they're taking the thunder away from the daughter of Babylon by doing BRICS, because these transactions don't involve using the SWIFT system. You can't use the SWIFT system for these currencies like that. And they're not using US dollars. Now, when people were trading oil in US dollars, or liquid natural gas, they would have to take their own currency, the Indian rupee, and buy dollars with it, and then use the dollars to buy the oil. Now, when you have all these big countries buying billions and billions of dollars every month, it creates what's called a demand for the dollar. And the demand keeps the price of the dollar high against the other currencies. And the daughter of Babylon was able to survive by doing this, because it enabled them to print this money backed by nothing except the good faith of America, and buy all kinds of stuff like aircraft carriers, B-1s, B-2s, F-35s, give assistance and aid to other countries, and then when they ran short, they would just get Congress to make more and more money. And now the debt is insane. Okay? So, if this works, which I don't think it's going to, it's going to take the demand for dollars down way lower than it is. And it's going to lessen the demand for the dollars, and that means the value of the dollar against these other countries is going to drop noticeably and significantly. Which means when you want to buy goods from outside America, like you want to have a Mercedes or a Volkswagen or a Fiat or a Hyundai or a Toyota or whatever, the Americans are going to have to cough up a lot more dollars. So a $30,000 car can conceivably go up to a $40,000 car. So what's that going to do? Well, people aren't going to buy foreign cars, they're going to buy American cars. So it's going to be a boost to America. But then America's been dependent on foreign goods. Let me give you some names: LG, Samsung, Toyota, Datsun, Hyundai, Kia, Mercedes, Porsche, Volkswagen, Ferrari, Lamborghini, on down the line, right? Plus, like perfumes from other countries, imported things like silk, um, all kinds of stuff, all right? It will make tourism boom in America because people from other countries will be able to travel to America, and when they get to America, take a stack of, euros, although that's probably going to go down too, but take their foreign currency and exchange it for US dollars, or exchange it before they leave in their own country, and now they're going to get a lot more dollars, probably another initially 15 to 25% or 30%. So America will have a boost in tourism, which they like. It's going to create a boost in export sales of American goods, which they like American cars will all of a sudden get more competitive if they're built in America. But Americans buy a lot of consumer goods that are not American. Dishwashers, washers, dryers, ovens, refrigerators, and the like, right? Lots of things. Foreign liquor will get very, very expensive. So buying the Irish whiskey that a lot of the elite like to buy, 18, 20, 25-year-old booze for $200, $300, $400 a bottle is going to go up more. They don't care. Even if it goes up by a third, they'll still buy it. All right. Now, that's if America does nothing about it and says they're going to suck it up. This America is not going to do. Historically, America is not oriented this way, and that's in a bipartisan way. The Democrats and the Republicans are both not going to be happy. The Republicans, we could say, like their war toys, they need money for that. The Democrats, we're going to say, like their social welfare programs, and they need money for that. I'm stereotyping. So what is America going to do? Rest assured, Biden's facing an election soon. He's not going to let the economy get decimated, okay? If he can help it. So what's he going to do? Well, he has to pick off the players in BRICS that are doing this with the sale of oil. So who would that be that they go after? Well, UAE and Saudi Arabia probably went into BRICS because they're afraid of Iran attacking them. And they don't have a lot of confidence in America to help them, which leaves Kuwait in a really bad way. Right there at the end of the Persian Gulf, where it hits land near Iran and Iraq, it's child's play for Iran to hit Kuwait, but America usually keeps 2,500 to 5,000 soldiers in Kuwait. That's not going to stop a big Iranian attack, but it's going to make it ugly for Iran or Iraq. If they attack Kuwait, they're going to encounter combat with American soldiers that are going to have missiles, ground-to-air missiles, artillery, mortars, tanks, bunkers to hide in from, air attacks and stuff like that. And they have radios, and they will get on the phone and say, we're under attack, send the jets, let the dogs out, and then the jets will come in, and that's going to be not good news for Iran, because they'll start bombing the troops, Iranian troops. Now let's put pieces together. America has a large amount of military. They're not releasing the actual numbers, but it's substantial, and it's increasing by the week. Blocking the border between Iraq and Syria, so Iran can't go into Iraq, which is apparently pretty friendly with Iran, and then come into Syria. They don't want to see that. So they have American troops there. Now, that's probably one of their first moves, because they've been doing this just a few weeks now, to counter BRICS with Iran. America's also been bringing warships into the Persian Gulf near the Straits of Hormuz to stop Iran from pirating vessels that they just don't like because of who owns them, the flag, or where the product is going, and so forth. So the other day there were two vessels there, one of those small aircraft carriers that's also carries 15 to 2,500 troops, and it can hold a dozen or so aircraft, vertical takeoff planes, and helicopters, and it carries tanks and stuff like that. Why they would use that in the Persian Gulf, I'm not so sure. And they had, I believe it was a destroyer with it. So they started doing swarm attacks with their go-fast boats and their drones. Not really attacking, but just threatening the American vessels, which normally had two helicopters overhead to protect them and, see things coming, I guess. And probably had rockets and things like that. So the response from America to this is normally going to be upping it from 2 ships to 4 or 6 or 8 or 10. Now I think you're going to probably see 8 or 10 ships there, maybe 6. See, the American, like Arleigh Burke destroyers, are so advanced. They have so many weapon systems and, anti-aircraft systems and anti-ship systems. I mean, these ships are loaded for bear. I mean, they got all kinds of weapons. It's a fortress. The Iranians aren't going to be able to handle that. They can handle 1 or 2 with swarm attack, but not 6 or 8. But what I think America's going to do next is perhaps tighten sanctions on Iran for selling drones to Russia to be used in Ukraine, for instance, or make up some reason based on fact, and put their ships in the Persian Gulf, and then with these new sanctions, or enforcing the old sanctions, stop Iranian oil tankers and tankers carrying natural gas from traversing the Panama Canal to get out to the Sea of Oman and deliver product around the world. Foreign vessels could go in to empty to pick up the product and take it out just as easily. They just go to the piers and load up with oil or whatever they're looking for to buy. And they're going to stop that from happening. So these people aren't going to be able to get their tanker ships out from Iran. The Americans say things like, you broke the sanctions, we're confiscating the vessel. The amount of people that hate America is likely to grow significantly when this happens. Iran does not have a navy that's even close to being a threat to the United States. What they do have is these go-fast boats. I guess they're usually 60 to 90 feet. They can shoot torpedoes, they can launch missiles, and they have fairly heavy machine guns mounted on them. I understand they have 1,500 of these boats, so they could send, if there's a flotilla of 6 or 8 ships, to do a swarm attack on that, they would probably need 150 of these naval vessels, which I don't think they're going to summon up. Now the Navy vessels will be spread apart, probably in pairs. So if they decide to hit a pair of American ships, probably need 25 or 30 go-fast boats and an equivalent number of drones to swarm attack it. And they may sink some American ships. This will break Iran's back. Why? Well, Iran's going to be able to trade in these non-US dollar currencies. And that's great. Now they have the money, but now they got to deliver the goods, the oil or the natural gas, and America's going to stop that. How are they going to deal with UAE and Saudi Arabia? This is something I don't think America has figured out yet, but they're going to try to walk softly with UAE and Saudi Arabia and bring them back in the fold. This is probably the end of any Abrahamic accord between Israel and Saudi Arabia. This is probably accelerated by 3 or 4-fold the potential of America attacking Iran. Of Iran and Israel attacking Iran. They may both do it. America's going to wait for some provocations before they do that, like an attack on a naval vessel. That'll do it. The attack on their troops is through militias mostly. It's not IRGC regulars at this point. If IRGC regulars go to Iraq and Syria and start killing the regular army of Iran, it's behind the Iran coalition starts going around and killing American troops in Iraq and Syria, even though Syria doesn't want them there and all that stuff. America could invoke NATO, but I doubt it. This is not American soil. NATO wouldn't like that. But NATO would say, well, you had no permission from the Syrian government to be there. Maybe the Iraq government was the same situation. Therefore, we're not going to do anything. But America doesn't care about that. Instead, they're going to need the permission of Congress to just get up one morning and start dropping bombs in Iran. So that's called declaring war. Or they could try to disguise it as some sort of police action or who knows what. They might get away with that without Congress, but it's easier for them to just get Netanyahu to do it. They already gave Netanyahu a bunch of tanker ships to refill fighter jets with fuel in the air. So we have aircraft that can do it. We have stealth F-35s that are not regular F-35s. They've been retrofitted by Israel, so they're more effective. Let me look at the chat very quickly. I forgot. I want to make sure that everything's okay over there. So give me a little pause here. Okay, I got audio. Give me a second to do a tiny bit of housekeeping in the chat very quickly, and I'll pick this up. All right. And I'm going as fast as I can. This is not going to be a big pause. Almost there. If you hear snoring, it's my little dog, Chief. He's sleeping by my feet. Okay. So that's how they'll deal with Iran. So Iran, great, you're in BRICS, you could trade in other currencies. Whoops, we have sanctions on you, you're not allowed to sell oil now, and you can't move your oil, and you can't receive tankers from other countries, and, go fly a kite. What's Russia going to do about it? Nothing. What's China going to do about it? Nothing. Both of them are not going to go extend themselves to a Persian Gulf War right now. Okay, they got more important, pressing, massive problems. Okay? Forget about it. They ain't doing that. So Iran's just suck and win. Okay? Now, if they start getting more nasty to retaliate about that, then America's going to start getting serious about attacking them. Maybe using Israel. Israel already attacked the drone factories and the drone storage facilities, where they stage the drones before they ship them. So they'll just do that again. And look, if it comes down to it, Israel will hit the oil refineries and the piers. Probably the first thing is they'll hit the piers at where the boats go, where they load the oil into the tankers, and just destroy those. Iran can't stop Israel. Forget about it, okay? It's not happening. Now, what do they do with Russia? Well, you're seeing it. The other day, yesterday or the day before, America knew what happened at BRICS, obviously. They probably knew before. They said, we're going to train the F-16 pilots for Iran. So Iran's going to be sending their pilots to American flight school, the military, to learn how to operate the F-16. And these are existing jet pilots, so it's not going to be, basics. It's probably going to go fast, 30 days, 60 days, something like that. And they've already given them F-16s, and they're going to give them more. And NATO's going to the other NATO states will be encouraged to give more planes. I think they have pledged a good 200 or 300 planes to Ukraine, but they're all different kinds of European fighter jets. They're not all F-16s. So they have to go to these other countries and go to flight school and learn how to fly these planes, which they're doing now. This is a game changer for Ukraine, and I'll explain. They're going to need to have at least 60, 75 jets, but they'll have more than that very quickly now. You watch. And these jets are going to trash the Russian ground troops with armor. Okay? Tanks don't protect against 250-pound or more bombs. It'll flip the tank up in the air. But they don't, they could use anti-tank missiles that just penetrate the tank and blow it up. It's easy to kill tanks from big aircraft. 20-millimeter armor-piercing incendiary rounds. This is a bullet that's probably about like this. It has a 1-pound projectile. They put armor on it, so it's armor-piercing. It's very hard metal. It could be molybdenum, many things. And it penetrates the armor of the tank and gets inside the tank, and now it's an incendiary round, and it bounces around in there causing fires. It's cruel. And, they could put, these rounds are heavy in a fighter jet, maybe they put 300, 500 rounds. So tanks have reactive body armor. Great. So what happens? It's a swarm attack, basically. The jet flies by and fires 7 or 8 rounds at the tank. These things fire usually at the rate of 3,000 rounds per minute. So just a little, like that, and these guns are frequently 5 or 6 barrels. They're like a Gatling gun on the plane, and they have all kinds of ways to do it. But they're not going to shoot the tanks with a 50 caliber. They're going to shoot them with something like a 20 millimeter. And the first bullet that hits the reactive body armor is going to make it go off, and the other bullets are going to get into the armor, which they'll penetrate and destroy the tank. Same for armored personnel carriers, the same for mobile artillery. Okay? So the planes can carry, so many, they call it, when the plane's got all the missiles hanging down, they call it heavy. So maybe they could have 8 missiles or something like that, maybe even 10 or 12. And then they go to guns. And then they got to go back and take on fuel and get more ammo and then take off and do it again. So Russia's progress is going to be pushed back. Forget progress, they're going backwards now. If Ukraine just launches 4 or 5 jets, fighters, at 5,000 Russian soldiers or 8,000 Russian soldiers, they're going to decimate them. They start dropping 250, 500-pound bombs and then shooting rockets and missiles and strafing them with their bullets, 20 millimeter. They're going to destroy buildings, water tanks, generators, fuel tanks, fuel trucks, tanks, troops. Everything's going to be decimated. That big base isn't going to be functional 1 minute after the attack. It's going to be in sheer chaos with dead and wounded and fires and everything else. Secondary explosions from ammo. It's going to be a nightmare. So Russia's going to have to withdraw. Or what else can Russia do? Well, let's look at it. Russia can take anti-aircraft missiles, of which theirs are rather inferior, and put them in to protect their troops, but they're not very effective. They have, latter generation SAMs mostly. It's not that effective. Their S-300, S-400 is not that effective. So that's not it's going to occasionally take out a plane, I think, very occasionally. Advanced F-16s got countermeasures, they're fast, they're agile, they shoot out chaff, which distracts the missile. These are little pieces of, things that are very hot, like magnesium, and it attracts the missile, which is seeking the heat signature of the jet. So the missile gets confused and thinks that it's attacking the jet when it's attacking a piece of chaff burning at a very hot temperature, like the exhaust of a jet engine. And it's effective. And then they also have electronic warfare capability to mess up the missiles so they don't stay on the path. Those are called countermeasures. Russia has countermeasures, but it's a game of cat and mouse, and right now America's the winner. Okay? Is Russia going to launch jets to try to take out these planes in dogfights? No. They'll lose, I think. They'll try it, but they'll lose. Ukraine's bagging a lot of Russian jets with the American and European weapon systems they have now. So what America's going to do, Russia's already threatened, we're going to blow up any airfield you have to put the F-16s on. So Russia's already saying, oh, we'll just kill your F-16s when they're on the ground. Well, that's nice. You know, blah, 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 blah. So America's going to know this, and they're going to give more anti-missile systems to Ukraine, like Patriots, or they'll call Israel up on the phone and tell Israel to fork over a bunch of systems to protect the air bases, which, you know, Israel will say, we got to get paid for it, and America will make sure they get paid for it through Ukraine, probably with direct, who knows. So they'll defend the air bases and be able to take Putin's missiles out. American generals go to war colleges, and they constantly, their whole lives, study war. And they're constantly studying what the enemy's weapon systems are, and the capabilities and the weaknesses. It's never ending, okay? These guys are not Biden or Jake the Brake Sullivan or, Blinken. These guys know war, okay? And they'll know just how to do it. They may build underground runways for the F-16s. Israel has those. Israel could teach them how to do it. America could teach them how to do it. Now, not being stupid when it comes to war, the American generals are also going to give Ukraine more of these HIMARS missiles, which now go around 60 miles, which is a pretty decent distance that lets them shoot into Russia from Ukraine. Now, as they push Russia out of Ukraine, which these aircraft are going to do, they'll be able to reach more and more into Russia with these HIMARS missiles. But there's HIMARS missiles with a more extended range, perhaps 100 miles or something. And they're going to start giving these to Ukraine too. And that'll enable Ukraine to reach not only all the areas that Russia's occupying in Ukraine, but also to reach out into Mother Russia territory, which they're already doing with drones. Then comes drones. So they may put the arm on Israel to give some advanced drones to Ukraine, but I don't think Israel's going to do that, not advanced drones, because they don't want the Russians and then the Chinese getting their hands on those. So I don't think that's going to happen. But America's got drones. And they got to cut the flow of drones off from Iran to Russia, which they'll either use Israel to do it again or they'll do it, America. So the way they're going to go immediately after Russia is in Ukraine. Their hope is for a regime change. Okay? Now the Wagner Group people are packing up out of Belarus, of which there was at least 5,000. And they say they're going to storm the Kremlin in Moscow for the second time. Now they have lots of members in other countries. Now in Belarus, just 5,000. If they start pulling them out of places like Africa and other countries, which is going to ruin their reputation with the other countries, because all of a sudden their gains and the progress that the Wagner Group made at great expense to the host country is going to be dissipated or go bye-bye. So Wagner has to watch that because they want to be around to play again another day. But this is so critical to them, they may not care. Now, enemy of my enemy is my friend. So Ukraine, if America is smart and CIA and MI6 and French intelligence, German intelligence, NATO intelligence, EU intelligence, and all of that get together and they talk to Wagner and Zelensky and bring them together to kiss and make up, and Wagner joins Ukraine, Russia is no longer kind of circling the drain. The day that happens, Russia is beginning its descent down the drain. What they would do is similar to what happened to Nazi Germany in World War II. Russia got a piece and America got a piece. So to bribe Zelensky, they'd probably say, hey, we'll give you a buffer zone inside of Russia, your Ukraine's eastern border with Russia's western border, you got it? And we'll give you 25 miles of Russian territory, and we'll call it a buffer zone to prevent missile attacks. And then Ukraine says it's not enough, and then they go, okay, we'll give you 60 miles or 40 miles or whatever it is, right? And Ukraine will, of course, decimate or drive out of Ukraine the Russian troops. The other day, a Russian helicopter pilot had some Russian military compatriots fly this helicopter to Ukraine and surrender. So they had contact with Ukraine prior, and Ukraine was expecting them, or they would have shot them down. And we don't know, but there's a suspicion there was some aircraft parts in there. We don't know. We don't know, weapons parts, but they surrendered and gave the helicopter to Ukraine, which is not going to turn the war. Then Ukraine's going to get more anti-ship missiles, and anytime the Russian ships get within range of Ukraine, bada bing, bada boom, boop, Davy Jones's locker, they're going to shoot the Russian ships down. So Russia's no longer going to have free range of the Black Sea. Now, Ukraine has these naval drones that go under the surface and sink ships too that are effective. They've really damaged Russian ships with that. So I imagine America and NATO are going to make sure that Ukraine has a number of those. Basically, they're going to give Russia a whooping. Okay? A real whooping. A beating. Okay? Like an Al Capone, Frank Nitti beating. Beat them to death if they can. Using the Ukraine war. They're hoping for a regime change, but getting rid of Putin and have Medvedev is not a regime change. So I think the chances of getting a sensible bunch of Russians to overthrow Putin and then go to America and say, hey, we were victims of Putin just like you, let's kiss and make up, and America would run over there and say, we love you, Russia, yeah, well, hey, we'll help you. Let's put McDonald's and Burger King and KFC back. Let's open up Walmarts again, and we'll put a Federal Reserve Bank in here for you. And, we'll help you sell oil, everything will be hunky-dory. But you got to dismantle most of your military, Okay, is Russia going to do that? There's no sign of it. I seriously doubt anything like that will happen. Russia is going down the drain because of all the things they did to Israel. You're going to believe that or you're going to not. The Lord says he has a controversy with the nations over Zion. Russia's been a stout, devoted enemy of Jews in Israel since the early 1900s when the Tsar had the pogroms against them, which affected my grandparents, and they all left Russia and got expelled and so forth. A lot of Russian immigrants came to Israel back in 1991, and they would do pensions from Russia, and Russia will not send in pensions to Israel. They lose out. Okay? To this day. And they've asked Russia to do it, and he won't do it. Starting in 1948, Russia was equipping the enemies of Israel with Russian weapons, contrary to the UN and America weapons ban. They put a weapons ban or embargo on getting weapons on the Arab states and Israel. The Arab states got the weapons, like Iraq, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan. Got the weapons from Russia, planes and all kinds of stuff. Tanks, whatever, the whole gamut, against the UN embargo, and Israel couldn't do that. So Israel had to buy defunct weapons from Czechoslovakia to handle the 1948 attack, which they did, and they had to refurbish the weapons. And then Russia's been continuing equipping our enemies, and to this day they're in Syria trying to help Bashar Assad, who's a dedicated enemy of Israel, and his father was too. And they got troops there, and enemies of Israel are there with Russia, oversight. And that would be Iran, who's a dedicated enemy of Israel, and Hezbollah and this other jihadist type groups. And Russia's well aware of the fact that Iran keeps trying to fly missiles and weapons into Syria, and Israel takes the weapons storage facilities out a few days after. Russia has not gone to the level of firing at our planes when we attack the Syria weapons dumps that Iran brings weapons into, but because tensions are so high, the last attack was surface-to-surface missiles. Israel didn't want to risk planes because it doesn't have to. It's very rare for Israel to deploy surface-to-surface missiles. They don't want the advanced missiles getting out where the enemy knows what they look like on radar and stuff like that. You better believe Israel has secret missile bases in Israel, because they do. And you better believe they got thousands of these. And they just haven't used them because they don't have to. And they're not Katyushas, they're real effective missiles. They've got massive amount of them. So when they say if Hezbollah attacks, we'll put Hezbollah back in the Dark Ages, missiles are going to be flying into Lebanon from all over the place. Plus artillery, plus mortars, plus aerial attacks from planes. Lebanon won't know what hit them. They won't know what hit them, okay? But I think the tensions now are slightly reduced with Lebanon. No, it's substantially reduced. I don't see an immediate war breaking out, but I could be wrong. And Iran pulls strings on Lebanon to a good extent by giving them money. So, cutting the oil and natural gas coming out of Iran, along with other products, I don't know what else they sell, pistachio nuts. What the heck does Iran have? Did you ever, they make cars. They're going to be selling Iranian cars in Russia. Yeah, really. I mean, this is true. I've never seen an Iranian car. Any of you driving an Iranian car? Of course not. Are Europeans driving them? I highly doubt it. Now India, they might sell them to India. India will buy them. You can buy junky cars in India for $2,000. I don't think they have, airbags and safety features, But you could probably wear, football equipment in the car or something. You think I'm kidding? No, it would work, but you'd have to look like a football player, Years ago in the 60s in America, they started selling crash helmets to people that looked like a fedora hat made out of straw. I remember this very well. It looked like a man's fedora hat, but it was a crash helmet. Probably the brim was made out of cardboard, so it would just crush. And the idea was people should buy those to wear in their cars so they wouldn't have head trauma in an accident. Now, back in those days, you didn't have the shoulder belt, you had a seat belt, which kept you from flying out of the car, which they normally, the insurance companies and the government, consider that to be very dangerous. I mean, you could fly off a cliff, go over the guardrail. Um, ambulance attendants at night see a severe crash, and they got to call the highway patrol and the troopers and the police, and they get their flashlights and they walk all over the place, probably going 100 feet or so, or 50 feet, I don't know, to look for bodies that got thrown out of the car. People get thrown out of their cars in the old days from high-speed impacts. Their shoes would be on the floor of the car in the passenger seat. This would usually just happen to the front seat passenger, or two if it was a bench seat. They would go through the windshield, and that should break your neck. And it's so the shoulder belts were a really good thing. Of course, the seat belt stopped you from getting thrown out of the car. Period. You wouldn't get thrown, but you get this whiplash thing where your body go forward and back. With the shoulder belt, you're only going to move a couple inches, so it's way different, much better. What people, if they're really paranoid, should do is get the big, 3-inch wide straps that come over both shoulders, and have a big thick belt. When you have a thin belt, the force presses in you very hard. If you spread it out and you make it thicker, and you have the belt thicker itself, like it's 3 or 4 times or even 5 times thicker than the seat belts in a passenger car, the race car things, so they don't bend into a small piece. Make they're like this and then they bend like that, so it can cut in more. Not that it's going to break the skin, but it's going to push in more. The force is dissipated over more surface area if it's a big thick belt that won't bend. So if you did that, you'd be much better off. And that also keeps you from going up and hitting the roof. Now, the shoulder belts do, I guess, a pretty good job of that too. But I think it would be too much for comfort if you're going to tell the people, well, now you got to have this big harness on where you have 2 straps coming like this and a big thick belt. Then you can't really move around in the car. Race car driver doesn't want to move around in the car. He's staying in one place. And when he's throwing himself around turns, he don't want to move around the car either. But they don't do that. But they did, you got to hand it to them. They did make the cars a lot safer, okay? And the airbags tend to really help. The good cars don't just have a front airbag. They got them on the roof and the sides. Like I had a Mercedes that had 8 or 10 airbags, or 12 once, They put them all over the place. And, you're hitting an airbag instead of the solid metal of the car. What would you rather hit? I'll take the airbag, Now, we could always say they could do a better job, but they did a pretty good job. Race cars have a steel tubing inside the whole passenger area of the car. So if the car's going to flip and stuff like that, this tubing is very strong and keeps you from getting crushed and banged around and stuff like that. American passenger cars don't usually have that. A lot of people in the old days would only buy a 4-door sedan where you had a post. You had 4 doors, and there was a post in between the front and rear doors that would help support the roof. And there was a big piece of metal that would be from the rear in between the rear window and the rear windshield. You'd have, so it held the car up better if it was flipping. You could put a roll bar in a car. I mean, kids used to do that, and a lot of sports cars come with it, So, it's if you got a convertible and you're flipping, you got a problem because there's nothing. If the car goes over, there's nothing from your head and shoulders banging into the ground. So I had a BMW once. I had two of them, M3s, and they had a roll bar. They were convertibles, and they had a roll bar that would, on impact, like when the airbags go off, the roll bar would shoot up in a fraction of a second or a second, and it would be there to stop, you from getting your head hit if it flipped. I think they were in the front and the rear. I can't remember. It was a backseat cars. I don't know. So anyway, they made a big progress. But do you buy Iranian washing machines? How about dishwashers? What about a refrigerator? What about an Iranian smartphone? How about an Iranian computer? How about an Iranian wristwatch? You don't buy any of this stuff. What about an Iranian rifle or a gun? Come on, nobody buys this stuff. What about Russia? You driving Russian cars lately? How about a Russian or Iranian motorcycle? How about a Russian TV, an Iranian TV, a smartphone, a computer, refrigerator, an oven, a microwave? Nobody buys this stuff. Okay? So they're going to use Ukraine to really polish off Russia, and they're going to restrict oil from flowing out of Iran. Now, this is going to cause a lot of friction with other countries because India is going to want to get Iranian oil and gas, and they're probably not going to let India do it. India is going to want an exemption, and now America's fighting for its life economically, and India's mixed up with this BRICS. So America might finally realize that all Modi cares about is India, and they're going to shut Modi off. Will Modi attack America? He has no inclination at the present time of doing that, but after this happens, he's going to be very angry at America. Now, they can do the same thing to the UAE. I don't think they will, and Saudi Arabia, I don't think they will. I think they're going to try to play footsies and dance with the UAE and Saudi Arabia and bring them back into the fold, which could very well happen. It could. Could happen. That's how they're going to deal with BRICS. If the UAE is persistent in not pulling back on this BRICS and the trading, well, then the UAE and Saudi Arabia are going to be on America's hit list, and they're going to be doing things against them. You watch. This is the lion waking up. Okay? America is now going to take the gloves off. This is a war against America. This is economic attack against America. And America very well knows how serious this is, and is not going to put up with it. And they're going to fight against it. And exactly how they're going to fight against it, I'm not sure, but they're going to fight against it. And I give you the two obvious ways they're going to do it. They're not going to be so quick to go after China. See, China's not a supplier of oil, they're a consumer, like India. Now, Egypt, the United States can deal with Egypt. Egypt has oil, but it's not as major. The kingpins they're going to go after is Russia and Iran and UAE and Saudi Arabia. That's massive. And they're going to go after them. Now, if the Saudis and the UAE just tell America to go take a long walk on a short pier, or, they call them up and they say, my name is Cliff, drop over sometime. My attempts at humor. The Americans are going to start with sanctions against Saudi Arabia and the UAE. And, this is going to make oil prices crazy. Now, the UAE, Saudi, Russia, and Iran can reduce, you see, stopping Iran from selling oil may spike oil prices. Stopping Saudi Arabia and UAE from selling oil will make oil prices double or triple. Because they buy oil based on future delivery. That's called buying futures. It's a commodity. Like, orange juice pulp or pork bellies. It's a commodity. And people lock in for, so many barrels for delivery in a month or 3 months and 6 months. And this starts happening, people are going to start paying more and more money for oil to lock in delivery in the future, because they're going to be afraid that the prices are going to keep soaring. Now, Russia, they've already got a tight handle on, but they're going to make it tighter. Where Russia's going to suffer is in the Black Sea, because they can easily equip the Ukrainians with anti-ship missiles and, naval drones maybe and other things to take out the ships in the Black Sea that Russia has. Now comes Turkey. They're going to pull Turkey closer into the fold with NATO, because Turkey controls the Bosphorus Straits, and there's going to be a day where they're going to close the Bosphorus Straits against Russia. And that's going to stop Russia from traversing from the Mediterranean into the Black Sea and vice versa. The Bosphorus Straits Turkey controls is a very narrow pinch point you could easily see from one side to the other. And in the most simplistic terms, all they got to do is put artillery there. Cheap towed artillery. And when the Russian ships come through, what's a Russian ship going at? 25 to 40 miles an hour? Or knots, whatever, it doesn't matter. These are 250 to 400 foot boats. All the artillery guy has to do, he doesn't even need a computer and radar. He just, points towards the front of the boat, so when the artillery hits, you give it a lead, it's going to hit further down the boat, depending where they want it. All they got to do, basically, is aim to the first quadrant or fourth of the boat, and you'll hit pretty good. And you could just pop artillery shells all you want into these boats, armor piercing, whatever. Look, two hits with an artillery shell, the boat's gonna probably be on fire, maybe be dead in the water, but by the time you get to 4 hits, it might be floating, but its war capability is gone, and it's gonna have to go back to dry dock for months, or it'll be scrapped and they'll just salvage pieces of it. Plus you'll have loss of life. So they need Turkey more now to punish Russia. And remember, Russia irritated everybody with this grain deal, stopping the grain going out of Ukraine. And I'm going to take a quick 1-minute break, and we'll keep going. You can put questions up in the chat, and I'll read the chat when I get back, and I'll try to deal with them. Before I forget, I want to point out something to you. Putin is a lousy, stinking, murderous dictator. The American Pentagon said, I think yesterday, after their beginning investigation, they believe that the head of Wagner Group, the mercenary group, his plane went down from an explosion. It doesn't necessarily mean it was a surface-to-air missile. But the Pentagon is probably not going to tell a lie like that. It's true. So that means Putin killed the guy. And 9 of his other lieutenants that were in there, 10 people got killed. Putin went to the funeral just like Frank Nitti and Al Capone used to kill people, their competitors, and go to the funeral. You know, give a present to the wife and kids. Here's $10,000. We're sorry. You know, they did all that kind of stuff. All right. So Putin might, when he sees what's happening in Ukraine, which is going to take maybe several weeks now, okay? But America's not waiting for the F-16 pilots. They're going to pour it on Russia now, big time. The two kingpins in this BRICS thing is China and Russia. India is a kingpin, but India is not that hard for America to deal with. China and Russia are. And Iran is. Okay? I don't think they give a hoot about Ethiopia and Egypt very much. Okay? But you will see Egypt, according to Bible prophecy, become more and more nuts. And they will attempt to attack Israel. And they do run away from Israel. They get so scared. And America will attack Israel and do bad things to Israel. And they run away also. That's in the scriptures. Okay, and I've covered that many times. Before I forget, to my friends in Canada that are watching, as you know, I have other friends in Canada that don't always watch, and I want to make sure you make them aware of this, because this is a very important thing that's taking place that the media in the world is not going to downplay. But America does not tolerate attacks on the dollar. They never have. And I see no reason why they're going to start today. Okay? They do not tolerate it. They may go as far as summoning an attack on Russia from Ukraine. Okay? Don't think Russia is going to go send 200,000 soldiers or 50,000 soldiers to Iran to help them. And don't think China will either. That ain't going to happen. Okay? Don't plan on it. And I don't think you're going to see it. There's this thing called stretch too thin. And if they can pull Wagner together with Ukraine to attack Russia, and they'll give them all kinds of weapons, just like they give Russia. I don't know how much they're going to trust the Wagner group, but they'll give the weapons to Ukraine, you know. And that's... How the heck is Wagner going to attack America and America homeland anyway? They don't have an Air Force or a Navy, so what the heck's the risk, you know? Not much. They need a regime change in Russia. They need the end of Russia. They wouldn't mind breaking Russia up into pieces. You know, Patton, after World War II stopped, was practically begging the Americans to let him go wipe Russia out. That guy knew what was going to happen. Patton knew Russia was nothing but trouble. Nothing but trouble. Okay? Bible prophecy-wise, Russia's been awful to Israel and the Jews going back to the Tsars. I know how the Jews lived in Russia when they were there, with the pogroms and all that stuff. Okay? I know that. Okay, my grandparents were there, and they had to leave. Okay, I know all this. My mother's father walked to Malta to get on a boat. They walked out of Russia. That's how bad things were. Well, they didn't have cars and there weren't buses and trains. They were coming before World War One. So you need to be aware that America is pushing its pedal to the metal now on Russia. Believe me. Believe me. They are not going to take this line down. If they do, America is going to be a completely different place. Now, that meets the test of Isaiah 47. So America may just do that, but what am I talking about in Isaiah 47? Well, I guess we need to switch the Bible. Let me jump into the chat again. I like to see if I'm getting questions in the chat, because I like to answer them if I get them. No, we're good. Okay. Isaiah 47:1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. We're referred to as the daughter of Israel and stuff. The daughter of Babylon is America. It really is the word Babel, not Babylon, but okay. The old Babylon, where Iraq is, was also called Babel, but they made it into Babylon. I don't know why. Sit on the ground, there is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. Take the millstones and grind meal, uncover thy locks, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers, thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and will not meet thee as a man. As for our Redeemer, think year of redemption, Jehovah of armies is his name, the Holy One of Israel, Chadosh Israel. Sit thou silent, and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called the Lady of Kingdoms. I was wroth with my people, and I have polluted my inheritance, and given them into thy hand. Thou didst show them no mercy upon the ancient, the old ones. Hast thou very heavily laid thy yoke? And thou sayest, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither didst remember the latter end. So it sounds like things are getting pretty bad in America. Therefore hear now this, thou that art given to pleasure, that dwellest carelessly, that saith in thy heart, I am and none else besides me. That's the mindset of America. I shall not sit as a widow married to the land, that lose the land, neither shall I know the loss of children. People get killed. But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day. It happens fast, in a moment, in one day. This counter to the BRICS thing on the part of America could cause this war. Remember that. Putin will throw Russia into an attack against anybody, America, NATO, whatever, if he sees himself going down. He doesn't want to be held as a war criminal, tied to a pole in the ground, blindfolded and shot or hung. He doesn't want to lose his yachts. One of his big yachts is stuck under sanctions somewhere. He can't get to it, but he has a few yachts. Now these yachts are $100, $200, $300 million, okay? They're not little yachts, okay? These things got, sometimes 10, 15,000 square feet of living space. These are big things. They have crews of, 20 to 50, 60 people, all right? And he doesn't want to lose his mansions and his lifestyle and his billions or trillions of dollars. He'll throw Russia into war. Like I keep telling you, Netanyahu would too. He don't want to go to jail. Putin doesn't want to go to jail or get executed. Netanyahu's at no risk of execution right now. But he'll throw it into a war. So he may start attacking he sees the writing on the wall and he knows most of the weapons are coming through Poland. They'll start attacking Poland. Now he's fighting NATO. You might see a desperate move like that from him. China may see this coming and they may get into the fight with Russia and attack Taiwan, and North Korea could attack South Korea, and they could do this to punish America. So don't. This is one of the biggest war drums I've seen, but people don't understand it. To them, a war drum is sinking an American destroyer. This is a bigger war drum. It threatens the whole economic integrity of the United States. But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, and one day it's going to happen fast. You're not going to see it coming. In a moment. What's the word for moment? Strong's number 7281. Rega. What does Rega mean? If somebody rings the bell, who is it? Oh, it's, Daniel or something. Rega means wait a minute, wait a second. Okay? That's what Rega means. Fast. It's going to just happen. You ain't seeing it coming. It's just going to happen. We're going to see it coming, but we're not going to have the precision timing, okay? The loss of children, as many dead people, and widowhood, losing the land, they shall come upon thee in their perfection. Perfection is Strong's number 8537, tome. Completeness. It's going to be horrific. For the multitude of thy sorceries and the great enchantments. For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness, thou hast said, none seeth me. Everything's being written down, people. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it hath perverted thee. And thou hast said in thy heart, I am, and none else beside me. That's their mindset now. Therefore shall evil come upon thee, thou shalt not know from whence it riseth. They're not going to see it coming. Thou shalt not know from whence it riseth. And we may not see it exactly coming either. And mischief, that's evil, shall fall upon thee that thou shalt not be able to put it off. And desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. Suddenly. God says he's going to deal with the Goyim, with the heathen, as he never did before. And we're in the year of recompenses. Stand now with thine enchantments, and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be thou shalt be able to profit, so be thou mayest prevail. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly procrastinators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Behold, thou shalt be as stubble. The fire shall burn them. They're going to have fires. They shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. There shall not be a coal to warm at, nor fire to sit before it. Thus shall they be unto thee with whom thou hast labored. Even thy merchants from thy youth, they shall wander every one to his quarter, none shall save thee. The non-Americans that are there are going to leave and go back to their own country. Now, remember, fire is a dominant theme. And I want to show you a fire map that's perhaps 2 days old. It's not very old. I'll put it up for you, don't worry, it'll be a few seconds. I had it, where did it go? Oh, went out of here, hold on. The red areas are fires. See it? Now I'm going to make it bigger. America and Canada, it could be getting started. Okay? Now, they're not telling you this. Central America and South America. Look at South America. My gosh! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Look at South America. Now look at Africa and Europe, and look at that. Look at that year of recompenses. Hello? Look at the Middle East. Not in Israel, but look at the Middle East. Look at the Pacific Rim. Heat is also associated with this. Have you noticed the heat wave in the last few weeks? Huh? Thinking where I need to go to show you this. Gotta figure out where this was. Hold on a second. Okay, I got it. It's Jeremiah 30. Let me read it to you and do the word interpretation for you. It's the end of Jeremiah 30. I got so many scriptures in my head. I don't remember where these things are. There's so many in there. Isaiah 35 is definitely worth reading. Maybe we'll go through that again. But let's go to Jeremiah 30, verse 20 maybe? Let's see. No. 24, no. 23. Behold, and that word I believe is hine, which is, doesn't mean behold, like, yeah, it does, but that's not a modern English word that we would usually use. There's that song that says, Hine Yeshua Hamel, Hine Yeshua Hamelech Israel. It means, look, here comes Yeshua, the King of Israel, okay? So that's the word behold. Look, the whirlwind of Jehovah. Let's study that word whirlwind carefully. Sa'ar. A tempest, a storm, a whirlwind. A storm, a tempest, a whirlwind. Okay? Now let me go into Kyle and Delich for their translation, which is a pretty good translation. Behold, the whirlwind of Jehovah wrath goeth forth, a sweeping whirlwind that shall hurl down on the head of the wicked. The heat of Jehovah's anger. They left the heat out in the English. The heat. Have you noticed a heat wave around the world? From when the Lord told me we're in the year of recompenses, I would say it began circa August 1st, give or take several days, okay? The heat. Have you noticed the heat waves all over the world? Have you noticed the fire? They're hot. Remember that fire map? That's probably no more than 48 hours old. It didn't change much, except probably got worse. The heat of they're not talking about that. No churchianity preacher, no pro-church preacher is touching this, because it's going to destroy their pre-trib rapture phony narrative with the beast and all that stuff, which I'm going to deal with in a few minutes. The heat of Jehovah's anger shall not return till he hath done, and he hath established the purpose of his heart. In the end of the days you shall consider it. Well, we're in the end of the days, and here it is on a silver platter. Please consider it. Please listen. Please, I'm begging you guys. Go by the scriptures. I'm going to be giving you impossible to refute proof. Okay? Go by it. Because if you reject knowledge, the Lord's going to reject you. He can't lie. He won't. He doesn't have to. It's in the Word. Okay? Don't be silly. Don't be foolish and ruin your eternity. 2 John, verse 9. Whosoever transgresseth, what's transgresseth? 38:45 Strong's. Step by the side, deviate, okay? Whosoever deviates and abideth not, that means you're not staying, and stays not in the doctrine. What's the word for doctrine? 13:22. Instruction, the teaching, okay? In the doctrine of Christ hath not God. He that abideth in the doctrine of Christ, he hath both the Father and the Son. Don't blow it. I'm giving you the scriptures. This is a scripture. Mark 16, it says, those that believe shall cast out devils in my name. You go to church on Sunday and see them doing this? Oh yeah? Where? Wake up, please. Please. Billions are going to, people are going to die in this year of recompenses. Billions. Not millions. This is going to be a war like never saw. Okay? It's very serious. You never saw the world this messed up before, have you? I never have. I got gray hair. I never saw it messed up like this before. I'm going through some notes here. I think I'm in Isaiah 29:6. Thou shalt be visited of Jehovah of armies with, it doesn't mean hosts, it means armies, with thunder and earthquake. You're seeing earthquakes every day, pretty good sized ones, and great noise, and noise is 69:63 call. Voice, sound, noise. Call, a loud sound. I don't know how to interpret the noise yet. With storm, we got plenty of those. Plenty. And tempest. And the flame of devouring fire. I showed you the fire map. And the multitude of all the Goyim, the nations that fight against Ariel, which is in Israel in the West Bank, even all that fight against her and her munition. What does munition mean? 4685 siege. This is Zechariah 12, where they do the siege against Judah and Jerusalem. And that distress her shall be as a dream of a night vision. It shall even be when a hungry man dreameth, and behold, he eateth, but he awaketh, and his soul is empty. Or as when a thirsty man dreameth, and behold, he drinketh, but he awaketh, and behold, he is faint, and his soul hath appetite. So shall the multitude of all the nations be that fight against Mount Zion. That's Israel. Stay yourselves and wonder, cry. Zechariah 12 is going to be in this year. It's coming. And the multitude of all the nations that fight against Ariel and all that fight against her. Oh, I'm sorry, it skipped on me. Stay yourselves and wonder, cry ye out and cry. They are drunken but not with wine. That's the cup of the wrath of the Lord that makes them tremble. They get shaking, okay? The enemy's attacking us. They are drunken but not with wine. I would say alcohol would qualify. They stagger but not with strong drink. For Jehovah hath poured out upon you the spirit of deep sleep. The word for sleep is tardma, a deep sleep, like a trance. In other words, they're asleep. They're not understanding what's going on until it's too late and they're not above ground anymore. And hast closed your eyes. They're not going to see it coming. We will. They won't. The prophets and your rulers, the seers, hath he covered. Well, I guess maybe he covered their eyes or something. And the vision of all is become unto you as the words of a book that is sealed, which men deliver to one that is learned, saying, read this, I pray thee. And he saith, I cannot, for it is sealed. And the book is delivered to him that is not learned, saying, read this, I pray thee. And he saith, I am not learned. Wherefore Jehovah said, for as much as this people draw near me with their mouth and with their lips, do not honor me. They don't honor him. The people that sit in the churches, they break the scriptures all over the place. They don't honor him. But have removed their heart far from me, and their fear towards me is taught by the precept of men. That's the churches. Therefore, behold, I will proceed to do a marvelous work. Okay, what is a marvelous work? The word is Strong's number to Hebrews 6380. One palah, wonderful, extraordinary, distinguishing, beyond one's power, so it could be like miraculous, right? Okay, an amazing work or miraculous. Among this people, even a marvelous work, same word, and a wonder for the wisdom of their wise. Men shall perish, yes, they will, and the understanding of their prudent men shall be hid. Prudent, let's check that word. discerning and understanding. So there'll be some of them that might understand, but it's going to be hid. Or maybe he's talking about people like me. And I don't know, we're only very few who are going to accept it. Woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel from Jehovah, and their works are in the dark, and they say, who seeth us, who knoweth us? Surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay. Let me just see if we need to. See, here it says, is it not a very little while, and Lebanon shall be turned into a fruitful field, and the fruitful field shall be esteemed as a forest? The other scriptures on Lebanon is, Lebanon, open your doors, the cedars of Lebanon shall burn. But it's not going to be a total destruction. All right, I'm not going to keep reading all of this. You got the idea. Heat and fire are there. They're not talking about that. I am. It's in the scriptures. Please follow the scriptures. Now, I'm going to get into something else. I'm going to do it rather quickly, and then we're going to go deeper into the Bible. All right, I do this frequently, but some of you may not have heard it. I'm going to do it rather quickly. John 6:39. And this is the Father's will. This is Jehovah's will. Do not go against Jehovah's will. You will lose. Which hath sent me, that of all which he hath given me, that's all the believers that Yeshua had, I should not lose nothing, but should raise it up again at the last day. All the believers that Jehovah gave to Yeshua get raised up on the last day, which is after the millennium is over. Everybody goes up on the same day. There's no pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib rapture with the left behind. It's not in the scriptures. It's a false teaching. John 6:40, and this is the will of him that sent me, that every one which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. No man can come to me, this is verse 44, except the Father which had sent me draw him, and I will raise him up at the last day. And then he says it again in John 6:54. Whoso eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood, communion, hath eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. 4 times Yeshua told you everybody goes up in the rapture. Everyone's going up in the rapture. It happens at the last day, which is after the millennium is over, and Satan's released and all that. And everybody goes up on the same day. There's no left behind rapture. Don't reject this knowledge. God will reject you. Don't run around teaching and telling everybody false doctrines and agreeing with them on this. You're rejecting Yeshua. And this is going to separate you from Yeshua and Jehovah. And you're going to wind up in the lake of fire. Because you're playing around with another gospel. Okay? And when you have another gospel, you're going to have, you're playing around with unclean spirits, because that's where it comes from. Now, I want to cover the next temple with you, to show you where the next temple comes from. Because the Bible does not teach us that the next temple is going to be built by the rabbis. Not in the least. And it shows you where it comes from. Ezekiel 37, verse 26. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. Yeshua is the peace offering. That's what that's talking about. Speaking of Israel, it shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them. Now, the word for place is Strong's number 5414, which is Natan, place. I will place them where? In Israel, and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. The word for set is 54:14. It's the same word as place. So let's read it as place, because they changed the word to mess with your head. And will place my sanctuary, the word for sanctuary is Mishkan, which is temple. And I will place my temple in the midst of them forevermore. Now, it's very plain and obvious that Jehovah puts or places this temple in Israel forevermore. This is not New Jerusalem. New Jerusalem is never referred to with this word. Okay? Mikdash, that's not New Jerusalem. This is the word for temple. If you want to forget what the Bible teaches you, go play with the churches that the temple's built by the rabbis. But it's placed there by Jehovah. Now, the other thing is they keep saying, oh, we're going to have the third temple. This is the biggest load of trash I can ever imagine. The first temple in the Bible was Solomon's temple. The second temple in the Bible was Zerubbabel's temple. Read Zechariah 4, for instance. It's all over the scriptures, Zerubbabel's temple. It was smaller than Solomon's, and the people were bummed out. The next temple was Herod's temple. Was that a real temple? Well, Yeshua chased him out with the rope and said, my father's house is a house of prayer. So Yeshua was saying it's his father's house. It was a temple, a real temple. And the next temple is temple number 4. Not 3. I don't know why they do this other than just to put lies on you. Now I'll read the next verse. My tabernacle, and the word for tabernacle is Mishkan. Mikdash, temple, Mishkan, tabernacle. Also shall be with them. Yes, we have the tabernacle in 2 Maccabees 2. Jeremiah hid the tabernacle in Mount Nebo, sealed it up in a cave until the time that Jehovah shows mercy to Israel, which is now. And we'll have that back. Then that may very well be in the wilderness like it was in the past. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yea, I will be their God, their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And the Goyim, the heathen, shall know that I, Jehovah, do sanctify Israel when my sanctuary, when my Mikdash, temple, shall be in the midst of them forevermore. Why would the heathen know Jehovah sanctify Israel if a bunch of schmuck rabbis that reject Yeshua built some temple? That wouldn't do that. They'd laugh. If the temple came down from heaven, that would do it. So this next temple, which is not New Jerusalem, believe me, I know the difference, is going to be the temple of temples. And I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but it's going to be something else out of this world, because it came from out of this world, from heaven. It's a temple made without hands. And it's called the house that the glory God of Israel lives in. He never lived in any other temple. He went into the tabernacle and met with Moses and Aaron at the mercy seat. He went inside Solomon's temple briefly to anoint it with the glory cloud and all, but he didn't stay there. This next temple he lives in, because it's not made with human hands. Now, Ezekiel chapters 40 to 48 completely deals with this next temple. So don't think there's not going to be a next temple, and don't go running around thinking, oh, what do we need a temple for, and all that stuff. It says in the scripture, you're the temple of the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit resides in you, just like the glory of God of Israel resides in the next temple. But you're not the temple, you're the temple of the Holy Spirit. Don't start listening to the church hand you lights and crap, okay? Now, I'm going to go into this a little bit deeper with you. In Isaiah 43. So the Spirit took me up and brought me into the inner court, and behold, the glory of Jehovah filled the house. He went into the house, and I heard him speaking unto me out of the house. And the man stood by me. I'm on Ezekiel 43, verse 6. And he said unto me, Son of man, the place of my throne and the place of the soles of my feet, where I will dwell. And the word for dwell is shakan, settle down, abide, live. He's saying he's going to live there. That's why it's called a house. And a temple is also. And I will live in the midst of the children of Israel forever. And my holy name shall the house of Israel no more defile, neither they nor the their kings, by their whoredom, nor by the carcasses of their kings in the high places. In their setting of their threshold by my thresholds, and their posts by my posts, and the wall between me and them, they have even defiled my holy name by their abominations that they have committed. Wherefore I have consumed them in mine anger. Now let them put away their whoredom and the carcasses of their kings far from me, and I will dwell in the midst of them forever. Thou son of man. Now this happens after the great day of the Lord. I mean, he's going to dwell in the midst of them forever. The tribulation hasn't happened yet. And we're going to deal with that. Thou son of man, show the house to the house of Israel, that they may be ashamed of their iniquities, their lawlessness. And let them measure the pattern thereof. Measure the pattern. What's the word for pattern? 8508 in Strong's. The proportion. That type of thing. The pattern, the rough layout maybe. And if they be ashamed of all that they have done, show them the form of the house, and the fashion thereof, and the goings out thereof, and the comings in. So how you go in the temple and out of the temple thereof, and all the forms thereof, and all the ordinances thereof, and all the forms thereof, and all the laws thereof, and write it in their sight, that they may keep the whole form thereof, and all the ordinances thereof, and do them. This is the law of the house upon the top of the mountain. That's Mount Zion will be built up again. The whole limit thereof round about shall be most holy. Behold, this is the law of the house. We're not given construction information like we did with Moses' tabernacle, where we actually built it. Use this wood, this is what it looks like, this is the color, blah, blah. We don't get that. We get the law, the ordinances, and the pattern of the place. That's all we get. Because we don't build it. Now we'll decorate the outside, maybe decorate the inside. But this place is going to look like something else, baby. I don't know what it's going to look like, but it's going to be super duper. Now let's jump into Ezekiel 45 while we're kicking sacred cows over. Trying to find the verse here. Let me just read something to you from Ezekiel 45:12. And the shekel shall be 20 gerahs, and 20 shekels, 25 shekels, 15 shekels shall be your manna. Like your money. So we're going to have a hard currency. So we're not going to have recessions, depressions, and inflation. Ezekiel 45:17, and it shall be the prince's part to give burnt offerings and meat offerings and drink offerings in the feasts and in the new moons and in the Sabbaths and in all solemnities of the house of Israel. He shall prepare the sin offering and the meat offering and the burnt offerings and the peace offerings to make reconciliation for the house of Israel. Now this is shocking to you that they're doing offerings again and so forth. Okay. And now you have the prince doing offerings. See, this is referred to as the anointed prince. David shall not lack a man to sit on the throne. This is one of the two witnesses. Moses and Aaron were the typology of the two witnesses. They were prophets. And they led the children of Israel out of Egypt. The two witnesses today will lead the children from all over the world back to Israel. And Aaron moved on to become the high priest and work in the temple. One of the two witnesses, the one from the line of David or Judah, will become the anointed prince and work in the temple. Of course, David shall not lack a man to sit on the throne. This is foreign to the church, because they probably don't even know it or care, and they won't teach it. Ezekiel 45:22, and upon that day shall the prince prepare for himself and for all the people of the land the bullock for a sin offering. Now he's doing sin offerings. And this is not the past. It hasn't happened yet. The layout of this temple is completely different than any other temple. You've got to submit yourself to the Bible. It's inescapable. You've got to not reject knowledge, or you're throwing your eternity away. We don't, in the body of believers, have what's called variance. We don't have some people that believe one thing and other people believe another and go against the scriptures. You can't do that. It doesn't work out for you. You're going to fall away. The age of grace came because Yeshua and Jehovah knew there would be no temple, no priesthood, because it got destroyed in 70 AD. So you can't have any offerings, okay? So Yeshua became the peace offering for us. The peace offering is a lamb. The sin offering is a steer, like a cow with horns, cowboy and cow, right? Okay. That's the sin offering. Did you ever read in Revelation, behold the steer of God? No, the Lamb of God. That's the peace offering. Now he has to do away with sins to enable you to have peace with God. But through Yeshua, you have peace with God. But the law is not dead, because the Bible says, Matthew 5:17. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, until heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Well, all's not fulfilled. Have you seen New Jerusalem lately, for instance? It's not all fulfilled. Then there's a heaven and an earth. The law's not dead. It was suspended because it was impossible to follow the law for this 2,000 years. But those days are closing, and we're going to have probably the tabernacle first and then the temple. Or maybe the other way around. I can't tell from the scripture, but we're going to have both. It says so in Ezekiel 37. Don't reject this. Also, when we follow the law, we get the blessings of the law. Okay? Now I'm going to cap it one other way for you. I'm not teaching you everything there is to know about end times. I'm debunking, kicking over the sacred cows of churchianity to help you, and I hope you follow the scriptures and stick by them. And I stood upon the sand of the sea. This is Paul standing by the beach, let's say, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea. This is the beast that the whore rides on in Revelation 17:18, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon. These are just analogies what he's like. And the dragon, that's Satan, gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So if we want to know where this takes place, where the beast sets up shop, where he has his temple, where he has the false prophet, where they have the statue that talks, where they make the people take the mark of the beast or get their head cut off, it's where Satan's seat is. Now, lo and behold, the Bible tells us where Satan's seat is. And now we know where this temple's going to be. It's in Revelation 2, verse 12. And to the angel of the church in Pergamos. Pergamos is not Pergamon. Pergamos is a place by the beach in Cyprus. I think it's North Cyprus, which is where Turkey, the part that Turkey has, nice Muslim country. Write these things, saith he which hath the sharp sword with 2 edges. That's Yeshua. I know thy works and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is. The Bible itself, which is written by Yeshua here, tells you where Satan's seat is. It's in Pergamos, Cyprus. It's not in Jerusalem. He was crucified outside the gates. He wasn't crucified in Jerusalem. Where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is, and thou holdest fast thy name, and hath not denied my faith, even in those days wherein Antichrist was my faithful martyr, who was slain among you, where Satan dwelleth. There you have it. That's where Satan dwells. That's where his seat is. that's where the beast is going to play his role. That's what the scriptures say. Give us the fires for the tire. Give us the website. Okay. Let me work on that for a second. I think that's a good request. Now, let me see if I can get this for you. Of course, it's in Telegram. Yikes, how do I do this? Wait, hold on. Let me get back. Let me try again. Open up copy link. Okay, let me make sure I got it. Hang on. Copy link. It's telling me it's too big of a link to put up in the chat. Let me think. It's on my Telegram. You can get it out of there. Maybe I could put it up in Twitter. It's too big to put up in the chat. Let's see if I can get it up into Twitter. See if it took. It went up into Twitter. Whoops, it's refreshing. Let's hope for the best. Okay, this is my Twitter account, Moshe Hakom, and I put right up in there, the top, the link for the fire site. Okay? Best I could do, the link is huge and it's too big to put up in the chat. It exceeds the chat entry by 34 characters. Best I could do. Okay. There's people that are leaving because they don't like the teaching and stuff like that. Am I teaching contrary to the church? I am, but the church is teaching contrary to the scriptures. I'm teaching the scriptures. That's it. Everything I'm giving you out of scripture. So I'm sort of burned out from my eyebrows to the top of my head. I'm shot. Okay? So I think it's enough for one day. There's only so much the old man can do. So I'm Moshe, my wife is Rivka. Please pray for our peace, joy, safety, protection, healing. Pray for our finances. Pray for The peace of Jerusalem, pray for our animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole. And pray for better videos. And make sure you subscribe, because remember, things are going to happen suddenly, unexpectedly. So I'll be doing live streams when that occurs. And I'm out. And I send my Shabbat Shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach.